I never imagined that working at Chili's, the once prestigious restaurant known for its sizzling fajitas and margarita madness, would turn into a chilling ordeal. I had been a server there for a few years, and at first it was all laughter and camaraderie with my fellow staff members. But there came a time when things began to change, when something eerie started to lurk beneath the surface of our beloved establishment. It all began with a string of bizarre incidents that I couldn't quite explain. Tables would be set perfectly, ready for guests, only for me to return a moment later and find the silverware scattered or the glasses mysteriously knocked over. It was as if the very ambience of the restaurant had turned against us. I recall one evening in particular, the restaurant was buzzing with customers. Their laughter and clinking glasses filled the air. I was rushing from table to table, trying to keep up with orders. That's when I saw her. She was an elegant woman, sitting alone at a corner booth, her crimson dress contrasting with the dimly lit surroundings. Her name was Olivia, and there was an air of melancholy about her that drew me in. I approached her table with a warm smile, the kind I had flashed countless times before. "Good evening, ma'am. Welcome to Chili's. My name is Daniel, and I'll be your server tonight. What can I get you?" Her eyes, though weary, held a spark of curiosity. "Just a glass of red wine," she said, her voice soft and distant. I nodded and left to fetch her order. As I returned with the wine, I noticed that she was staring at the portrait on the wall. It was an old painting, one of those peculiar pieces that Chili's had always prided itself on. But now, it looked different, as if the man in the painting was watching her with a sinister grin. "Here's your wine, Mom," I said, placing the glass in front of her. She took it without a word, her eyes still fixed on the painting. "Do you ever wonder about the stories behind these paintings?" she asked, her gaze unbroken. I chuckled nervously, as if her question had struck a chord with the odd occurrences I'd witnessed. "Sometimes," I admitted, "but I guess they're just part of the charm of this place." Olivia's lips curled into a faint smile, and she finally tore her gaze away from the painting. "Charm can be deceiving," she whispered, and then she fell into silence, sipping her wine. The night continued, and Olivia remained at her corner booth, occasionally waving me over to refill her glass. As I tended to other tables, I couldn't help but feel her eyes on me, as though she was observing my every move. Hours passed, and the restaurant gradually emptied. The once bustling dining area now echoed with an eerie emptiness. The staff began to clean up, and I noticed Olivia was still there, the last lingering guest. I approached her to check if she needed anything else. "Mom, we're closing soon," I said politely. "Is there anything else I can get you?" She looked at me, her eyes filled with sadness. "Just one more glass of wine, please." I hesitated, but complied with her request. I brought her another glass of wine and set it on her table. As I did, I noticed that her hand was trembling as she reached for the glass. "Are you okay, ma'am?" I asked, genuine concern in my voice. She didn't answer immediately, and I could see tears welling up in her eyes. "This place," she whispered, "it holds so many memories. It's like a prison for lost souls." Her cryptic words sent a shiver down my spine, but before I could respond, she downed her wine and stood up. "Thank you for your service, Dantius," her voice trembling, and then she turned and walked towards the exit. I watched her leave, and for a moment I felt a strange mixture of relief and foreboding. What had she meant by a prison for lost souls? The weeks that followed were a descent into an eerie madness. The strange incidents I had noticed before escalated. Plates would slide off tables, chairs would topple over, and the paintings on the walls seemed to change when no one was looking. I tried to explain it away as mere coincidence, but it was becoming increasingly difficult to ignore. One night, as I was closing up the restaurant, I heard a faint, mournful whisper. It was almost imperceptible, but it sent a chill down my spine. I followed the sound, which led me to the corner booth where Olivia had sat. The voice grew louder, echoing in my ears, but the words were unintelligible, like the agonized pleas of a tormented soul. I glanced around, my heart pounding in my chest. I was alone in the restaurant, yet the voice persisted. It seemed to be coming from the painting that had caught Olivia's attention. The man in the portrait now looked twisted and malevolent, his eyes burning with an otherworldly intensity. Panicking, I rushed to the painting and tried to tear it from the wall, but it was as if it were fused to the plaster. The voice grew louder, and I realized it was not just one voice, but a chorus of anguished whispers, all pleading, all trapped. Desperation overcame me, and I fled the restaurant, leaving the haunting voice behind. I couldn't explain what had happened, and I didn't want to. I just knew I had to get out. I didn't return to Chili's for weeks. I tried to forget the horrors I had witnessed, but they haunted my dreams. The eerie ambience of the restaurant, the paintings, Olivia's cryptic words, and the tormented voices all plagued my thoughts. One evening, unable to resist the urge to confront the nightmare, I found myself standing outside Chili's. The neon sign buzzed eerily, and the restaurant appeared just as it always had. I hesitated for a moment, then pushed open the door and stepped inside. The place was empty, the dining area devoid of customers and staff. The eerie silence pressed in on me as I made my way toward the corner booth where Olivia had sat. The painting still hung on the wall, its malevolent figure seemingly waiting for my return. As I gazed at the painting, a chilling realization washed over me. The man in the portrait bore an uncanny resemblance to the restaurant's founder, Chili himself. I had seen his portrait many times before, but it had never looked like this, never exuded such malice. The whispers began anew, more urgent this time, as if they were trying to communicate something. I strained to make out the words, my heart pounding in my chest. Help us. Trapped. Release. I stumbled back, overwhelmed by the voices that seemed to be pleading for salvation. I had to do something, but what could I do? I couldn't tear the painting from the wall, and I had no idea how to release whatever malevolent force was trapped within. Suddenly, the door to the kitchen swung open with a deafening creak, and a figure stepped out into the dimly lit dining area. It was Olivia, her eyes filled with a mixture of despair and determination. "You came back," she said, her voice trembling. I nodded, unable to find words. Olivia moved closer to the painting, her hand reaching out to touch it. As her fingers made contact with the canvas, the voices grew louder, more desperate. Release us. Set us free. With a sudden, determined strength, Olivia began to speak in a language I couldn't understand. It sounded ancient and arcane, filled with power and purpose. The painting seemed to come alive, its colors swirling and shifting, and the malevolent figure within contorted in agony. As Olivia continued her incantation, a blinding light erupted from the painting, illuminating the entire restaurant. I shielded my eyes, overwhelmed by the intensity of it all. When the light finally subsided, the painting was gone, replaced by a blank space on the wall. The voices had ceased, and an eerie calm settled over the restaurant. Olivia turned to me, her eyes no longer filled with sadness, but with a sense of closure. "It's over," she said, her voice steady. "They're free." I wanted to ask her how she had known what to do, how she had known about the trapped souls within the painting, but I couldn't find the words. I could only watch as she walked toward the exit, disappearing into the night. I never saw Olivia again, and I never returned to Chili's. The restaurant's ambiance had changed once more, no longer haunted by the malevolent force that had tormented it. But the memories of that night, the voices, and the mysterious Olivia would forever linger in my mind. Chili's may have returned to its former reputation as a prestigious restaurant, but I knew that beneath its surface, it held secrets that were best left undisturbed. The haunting atmosphere that had once consumed it had vanished, but the sense of impending doom still lingered in the air, a chilling reminder of the horrors I'd witnessed in that once beloved place.